Good, everybody. It's July 30th, 2024. Day log episode over NQ and the live stream review. So today was a interesting one, I would say. And I've been aware and talking about this all week, and you have to experience it firsthand to kind of be comfortable with it. And what I'm getting at is like the move that happened today. I'll even go through the lower time frames, and there wasn't I could maybe list one setup today that I would have personally have taken, that I would personally deem as a high probability setup that has real sound logic that supports the idea. Besides that, I don't look at the moves and say, wow, this has some sound logic to it. I was kind of just off with my analysis today. I was off on myself. These are things that I ask myself, and you have to be a realist when it comes to being an analyst, especially when it comes to reviewing your day and reviewing what you personally think and what your model says. And this may be a difficult thing to do when you're newer, but when you get settled into yourself and you get settled into the things that you know work for you, this is where you cater yourself to the market. You say, okay, well, how did the market perform today? And is there anything inside of the market today that is inside of my trading style and the things that I know that make me profitable? Is there anything in here today I missed that I would, I maybe just glanced over it and missed the whole day, the whole setup. And there's days where I have to be realistic. I say, you know what, CJ, you just missed the move today, man. You missed the whole damn thing. You got it wrong. You even took some losses or something like that. And that's not fun. But days like this where I look at it and I say, well, there wasn't any really sound logic. There wasn't any models behind it. And I personally didn't even see it incoming. And it may sound egotistical, but if I get a day wrong or a kind of the whole day wrong, it's usually manipulated. And sometimes, again, being humble, it's just me being an idiot and I just didn't see the end move incoming. But if it's something that was really unseeable and I really didn't see it happening, to me, it's usually manipulated. Now, let's go into, well, is there any logic behind why it would be manipulated? What do I mean by manipulated? Price wasn't doing seek and destroy today. CJ wasn't, it would move straight down. That's not manipulation. That's manipulation. Anytime price is just spooling sporadically towards a certain draw on liquidity or just dropping or rising, that is manipulation. It's trying to do something to shake the market. And you'll observe this. We pointed out yesterday. And those type of moves, I don't feel any type of way about it. And going back to the point, to kind of check myself, well, I'm not making an excuse. What would be the reasoning behind that? Well, we had some big reportings coming out after basically the close of the day, sort of a little bit 1 hour before, which I honestly forgot to mention the whole day. That was being held off. We have the Fed rates tomorrow, plus FOMC, plus on top of that, NFP this week. And I've stated this 100 times yesterday. I stated this in the AM session. I'm stating it because you're going to see moves like this. You're going to see it's going to shake your confidence. It's going to shake you as a person and say, well, am I doing something wrong? Like it feels wrong. Doesn't it feel wrong at times? Like when you're just sitting out of a big move, it feels wrong, right? That's I think what most people feel is they feel fear or they feel wrong. And same with me at times, and I've overcame that for the most part. But you're going to feel like you're doing something incorrect. And again, you have to go through the list mentally or physically, whatever it may be, and check with the markets, check with yourself, check with your model, and see if what you deem high probability, what you personally like, is there. And if it's not, I don't look at it and say, well, that's a missed move. And on the other argument, I don't look at it and say, well, I need to learn from this. I need to learn how to be a part of that move. I don't look at it and say that. I say it's just one of those days where I don't trade. And I think that's where I struggled with the most is, I was always trying to be the guy figuring out how to be a part of everything, always trying to figure out, always being a part of every move. And if I didn't, that meant I was wrong and I was stupid and I wasn't up to par as far as my technical skills. And I think you'll come to a realization that once you're content with the idea that you don't have to be a part of all those moves, it's fine. And I have a reasoning behind that. And again, it's the economic calendar. And I will throw the excuse on it if we want to just, if I'm just making an excuse, I'm happy with that. Even though I know, that is a valid argument. So I wanted to make that clear. I think some people may have been fighting with a lot of emotions today, seeing a lot of things dropping. And I think a lot of us were all on the same board, even if you weren't utilizing my forecast for the day as far as looking for higher prices. It became clear towards the end of the silver bullet that we're probably going to look for lower prices, but until that moment, I didn't see that as a foreseeable option. Again, it doesn't mean that you should be out here, going back to ICT's core content and trying to figure out, how to be a part of this move. It's not realistic. So hopefully that gives you some clarity and maybe will calm you down. I wish in my younger years people would tell me that. I think with ICT, it's kind of with him, he always teaches, or at least wants to be out there saying you could be part of every single move, which you can, but I think it's being a realist from a student standpoint and growing. I don't think that's realistic. Anyways, we before the open and even during the open and during the whole session, I was pointing out this dealing range from this low and that high. We were stuck in it, and we were kind of just trending sideways and basically sitting around the equilibrium of it. And anytime you're inside of a consolidation and you're right around the equilibrium, that's a pretty bad spot to be taking trades. Eventually, you're going to break out of the consolidation like we did in here. But trying to predict one way or the other sometimes is difficult. And I was leaning on the idea of higher prices. And even looking at today in a whole, we dropped off lower. We took out multiple sell side liquidity pools. So this one down here, and they're basically relatively equal lows here, that low, and this low back here. So we took all of those out, and we look at the day. We look even on a 5-minute time frame and a 1-minute time frame. A lot of these moves that were happening to me just weren't something I would have even put risk on for, even though price moved, hundreds of handles. To me, this is almost as if it was just doing this. That's what, like, in my mind, even though price moved 200-300 handles, to me, that's in my mind, it's doing that. And there's no models, there's no entries, or nothing. So if you have to trick yourself into seeing that, then so be it. Not saying every huge down move is untradable in what I'm saying, but it's a situational approach. If I go down to a 1-minute time frame, even looking at this morning, I think there was one spot, if you were right on par with today, then I think that might have been the best shot. Obviously, I don't think somebody would have predicted this large of a move. I wouldn't have, and I didn't, and still don't care. From the open, we had a news driver event at the 10 o'clock hour, which happened right around here. So let's say I was short biased for the day. I wasn't. But if I was short biased, I would elect to believe I might have been stopped out and I would have got things wrong. I may have elected to take a look at this inefficiency. The only issue is basically coming right after the news event driver. So it would have made me a little weary. From here, we gravitate higher. We took out a swing high, we dropped lower. Another sell side imbalance. If I was short biased or I was leaning on this week of being, the economic calendar was different. Or if I was just not paying attention to those ideas is really what I should be saying. And I wasn't leaning on the experience that I have, then I would have taken a short there. I most definitely could have been in a long in here, which you saw me navigate that throughout the live stream. And I was saying how I wanted to see some really good evidence out of there. And there's some other factors as to why I wasn't taking it. But I wanted to see some good evidence to really support the idea of higher prices. If this thing expanded higher and started moving towards this sell side of balance and started working higher, I would have taken a long. That would have been my idea for the day. Right here is a small sell side imbalance. We take this high in here, and this is actually trading up into a 15-minute time frame imbalance. From here, it's these two right here and there. Utilizing this would be a reclaimed sell side imbalance, not an inversion. It's just a reclaimed sell side imbalance. those two are decent entries, but to me, there's no logic or reasoning to support the lower prices. So in hindsight, it looks like, well, that's a really easy short, and same here. And you may have taken it in real time. And I'm not trying to degrade anybody's trading style or degrade, that entry and say it was bad. But my personalized eyes, I don't think that there was enough logic or reason to be taking a short in here today at these levels. Even when we broke down in here, I think it would have been difficult to take a short because we're completely disrespecting the sell side imbalance. And again, that's due to the week that we're having. We're not going to get very clean, easy liquidity runs. From here, I mean, even looking at like a 5-minute time frame or a 15-minute time frame, there's nothing as far as even parent inefficiencies or parent things that I'm looking at. There's nothing inside of all this area. If price was trading up into like a 5-minute imbalance plus a 15, and there was some logic as to why we should be gravitating lower, there wasn't buy side liquidity above us, there wasn't the daily time frame sell side imbalance that could possibly be traded into. All of those are very counter reasons for me not to be willing to short it. So you have to keep that in mind when you're backtracking and you're looking at the day, as far as what was in real time, what was the counter evidence, and try to lean on that and say, well, I did a good job, even though in hindsight, there's this entry and that entry. And even looking at that 1-minute time frame, I mean, all of this is very sloppy. And we just immediately ripped off lower. And even taking off lower in here, my trading style is I'm not going to be shorting inside of a discount down here when we've ran from the open several hundred handles with very little retracements, with very little logic and reasoning. We've ran 300 handles basically from the open lower with very little retracement, with very little logic or reasoning as to why price should be willing to gravitate lower. And again, this is my personalized experience and I lean on that and I'm okay with it. You may have been looking at that today and you may be saying, well, it was super easy to look for shorts. I don't know why you wouldn't have. Again, there's going to be days where I may be looking at certain buy side liquidity pools and sell side, and I can really see the logic and the reasoning. You may not. I don't think the emphasis should be on right or wrong between traders. It shouldn't be on a battle of, I was profitable and you weren't profitable this day. Overall, when you look at advice, obviously you want to look at it from a perspective of from a profitable trader, but again, the emphasis shouldn't be on that because every single day is going to be different. And this is why you have to hone in on your own thoughts, your own experience, your own trust level when it comes down to it, your trust level in your own self and your own system. When you get to that point where you're so trusting in yourself and in your system, and days like this don't phase you, man, you're making some good ass development. And when you just take in your own advice, you don't care about any outside noise, you don't care about what anybody else is doing, it doesn't affect you what they're doing. You're making some really good progress. That's where you're growing into your own individual perspective. And I talk about that all the time. It's the reason why, for me personally, I don't ever, even in the chat between you guys, even though you're students, quote unquote, I never hate on anybody's perspective. I never go against anybody's perspective. I always say with open arms, open ideas that could happen. It's your perspective because it is. Because you have to grow into that. And that's the only way that you can become profitable. You can't just take my ideas and my own personality. It doesn't work. So even throughout the rest of the day, there's nothing in here for me personally that I would look at and go, wow, this is great. Some really good setups in here, some really good logic, reasoning, confluences, all the above, on board. There's nothing for me. So the only thing that I actually liked today and I thought was really clean out of the whole day was this in here. And this was the end of day macro, about typically 15 minutes before the end of what you'd classify as the end of the day, which is about 1600. You have to go out, maybe for your homework, there's a few things behind it, but you're taking out major sell side liquidity pool. Back to your left over here, there's SMT between ES. You're shifting above an old high, and all of these up close candles would be your bullish breaker. Then you can go out to higher time frame and see it, but really the essence would be time. the essence would be, well, you're moving into basically about 20, I'd say about 20 minutes is a really good spot. 20 minutes, 15 to 10 is when the end of day macro will move. If the whole day's been down the whole day, you can expect a run to the opposite side of liquidity. So right before that, you're taking out a short-term low in here, displays higher, and a small inefficiency forms right there. And it delivers from here right to that buy side liquidity pool for a nice 60 handles. And the risk to reward was pretty darn good. I didn't take the trade. I just observed it basically after the fact. You're basically risking about 29 handles for about 68 handles, and it delivers in about 1, 2, 3 minutes, maybe 4. That's pretty darn good to me. So that's, to me, there's logic and there's reasoning behind that. Time, which is the end of the day macro. B, if I'm taking out a major sell side liquidity pool, that's a very good confluence. C is SMT between ES. And another is just, again, pairing with time. If I've been down the whole day, typically the end of the day macro is going to reverse whatever we've done. So you're also taking out short-term low, targeting the opposite liquidity pool. That is a lot of good confluences and logic and reasoning. I mean, even looking at a higher time frame to lower time frame in terms of like a 5-minute, 15-minute. Again, you're coming into this bullish breaker. All of these will act as a down close candle. So there's confluences in terms of PD rays and things there to support price compared to what I was talking about in here. There isn't much for me. Do you see how when you're looking at a trade setup and you're looking at things to frame, you're looking at it through the perspective of confluences, and you're adding it up into your corner with favors in terms of probabilities. So this was the reportings that came out for some major stocks and stuff like that are within NASDAQ and ES and all that. So we saw another drop off lower, taking out the short-term low, and then since then we've rallied backwards. And I would put a lot of money on tomorrow running back to all these relative equal highs up here. They're too clean, too crisp. We've taken out a short-term low in here. Accumulation, manipulation, probably distribution back to the highs. That's what my anticipation for tomorrow would be. I'm not going to be live streaming the AM session. I will be live streaming the PM session when we have the Fed rate come out and FOMC. So be safe tomorrow. Until then, good luck and good trading, everybody. Be safe.